Hey, come on, come on. Hey, what? Here we go, here we go, here we go now. Hey. Let's chit chat, this is the show now. Come on. Bad black mama's gonna let you know now. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Come on. Let's chit chat, let's chit chat, let's chit chat, sis. Hey, what's up? Let's chit chat, let's chit chat, let's chit chat, sis. Hey.
Hey ladies, how's everything going today?
Hello, everything's good here.
Everything is good here. We look, my line I'll say all the time, we're above ground, so everything is really good today. Um, we have a really good topic we're going to talk about today, and we are graced with Dr. Patel. And I'm not going to take the road that I used to do, talk about just general things, but I just want to talk about, her, you know what I mean? And I want you to give us just a backstory, Dr. Patel, about yourself before we get into this topic, because I'm not even going to say the topic because I want you to tell us about the topic.
Oh, of course. Well, first of all, thank you
Welcome.
so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on this platform to kind of get this message out. So my name is Sonal Patel. I am a pediatrician. I was further trained in neonatology and a breastfeeding specialist, lactation. I'm a mom of 4 boys. And I like to add that also into that because it was my professional and personal experiences that really showed me the holes in postpartum care that we have here in the United States. So about 5 years ago, I opened my own home health company where we started off with because I always say I made a really amazing pregnant woman. Like I was just like Instagram pregnant woman ready. But postpartum, I mean, I've had everything happen to me postpartum. And
Oh, wow.
one of the biggest things was I had postpartum depression with one and postpartum anxiety with my third. And I'm sitting there with my pediatrician and saying, hey, I'm having issues. They didn't know what to do with me. And I was kind of just shuffled in the system. And I know the system. That's the scary part, right? Like I know the system as a NICU doc. I've seen postpartum women who come and deliver early. And it just shocked me that if I couldn't get the adequate care that I needed, what about other mothers? It was that simple, just that simple dialogue. So initially we started with more of a focus on the mental health aspect. And then over the 5 years, just getting into it, just realized all the data that we're going to talk about today and just the alarming data that's there. My company is Naya Care. Naya means renewal and sunshine. It's always my girl's name. That's why I named it. I have 4 boys. And it's a 4th trimester, specializes in 4th trimester health. That's what we do.
Well, as we were just speaking before we went into record mode, I had never heard of 4th trimester. It is such a relatable title. 4th trimester. What happens when we birth the baby? I remember telling my girlfriend this, Dr. Patel, after I had my daughter. I think I was probably more susceptible to having another child because my children are 15 months apart. I felt like I had an empty shell. Like I wanted her to be back inside because even though the ups and downs of being pregnant, but it was just the fact of me being pregnant with her and I felt comfortable and I just felt lost when I didn't have her inside. Of course, I'm caring for her, but it was a feeling. And I asked, I said, did you feel like this, like something was missing, from you? She was like, I think you were depressed. I was like, what? But it was just something I hadn't never felt before, of course, because it was my first child. With my second child, I didn't feel like that. I felt like probably the anxiety of I gotta get this right with 2 little kids. You know what I mean? I have to make sure that both of them are protected. They're healthy. Even though at that point, I got identified with high blood pressure, and I had gestational diabetes with him. And these things were not being cared for. It was more geared to the baby. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to, put that out there. I think is this the issue that we once we have the child, we're in the 4th trimester. Is this the issue that we're more geared to the baby instead of the mom?
I think you nailed it, right? I think that's how we as a society have been set up where it's, you know, you're showering the pregnant women, and then when the baby's born, you're like, hey, good luck. Our medical system does that too in traditional medical systems, and it differs a little bit if you have midwives and stuff like that. But you
Mhm.
get about 10 to 15 appointments with your OBGYN provider and your midwife provider. But then when you look at the medical system postpartum, meaning after you've given birth, you have one appointment at 6 weeks. And data is showing that 40% of women don't even make that appointment. They don't value that appointment because they're just in survival mode. So we've created a system where we're putting women in survival mode and not adequately having the support for them. So, yeah. So the fourth trimester is this understanding that for 3 trimesters, you've actually, your body has physiologically, mentally, spiritually changed. And there is this 10 months, I never say 9 months because it's really 10 months.
Right.
But you know, it's like, come on, let's be real on that one.
Mhm.
But then we have this idea that we're supposed to quote unquote bounce back. I hate that word.
Mhm.
And we are not respecting the fact that our body also needs time. Physical body, first of all, needs time to go back to its baseline. So for example, heart rate. Your heart rate goes down, your blood pressure is supposed to go down to ensure the most oxygenated blood to your baby when they're inside of you.
Right.
So that happens for that transition happens for 10 months. So the same theory is like, well, why do you think in one day it's going to bounce back up and it's normal? And then that's where the blood pressure issues come up, because sometimes it might bounce back up too high. It might overcompensate, and then you have issues there. So the fourth trimester is this understanding that it's not only for babies, but it's also for mothers, and both the baby and the mom's health are super connected, just like they were in with the other trimesters after the birth of the baby. So
Okay.
for example, breastfeeding, right? Like if you've had a C-section, which is abdominal surgery with a baby attached, because they rip up your belly with it, you know, how are you supposed they do, they're like, oh, but how, how are you supposed to successfully breastfeed when you're in so much pain?
Exactly.
Right. And
Mhm.
I think that's the underestimation of it. And so this idea, and so here, I'll give you guys an exercise. When I say fourth trimester, what imagery comes to your mind? Like, what do you guys think of?
Fourth
I,
trimester. Go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I thought I don't know why fourth trimester. I thought of like skin to skin contact, so a lot of isolated time, I guess, between the parents and the baby. That's why I was like, oh, that sounds fun, but nobody told me
Yeah.
about a trimester.
And when I
Yeah.
hear it, I think of rest. Because I put myself back to when I had my children, and you know, the help that was given to me, the care that was given to me by my family, is so important. And being that they were, you know, moms themselves and had gone through this, then they understood it. And I'm so grateful to you and for those who are speaking out about this, because even within our community, as a whole, as women of color, we think about, you know, slavery time where women had birth and they were right back in the field working. And I think um, that thought process carried on with us as the centuries and the turn of the century came, and you know, it's like, okay, you can have this baby and just go, all you did was have a baby, so just going back to work. And we have suffered for it for so long, for centuries. And to think that we are in today's world and have the numbers that we have, with the mortality rates for women after giving childbirth. So again, thank you for the work that you're doing, for the light that you're shining on this, because it's just incredible. And working from an insurance background, I'm grateful that, you know, companies are, you know, have started to give fathers that, you know, paternity leave, because that gives them the opportunity, if you're so fortunate, to give that mom the rest that she needs and have that help with the baby for that time period. It really helps. It's really, really significant. So that's what I think of when I hear fourth trimester. I just think of rest. She still needs rest. She's tired. Her body is recovering. You go to the gym, you need a recovery period. So if you give birth, God knows you need a recovery.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, Dr. Patel. When I heard fourth trimester, this gonna sound terrible, y'all. I was thinking to myself, who put that together? Because I don't want to be pregnant no longer than those 40 weeks. That's what I thought about. And the reason why I thought about that is because when I had my children, was the total opposite from like Chauncey. You know what I mean? Mine was a constant, okay, check the boxes and make sure that I have everything that the kids need. And I have to make sure that they are healthy because in 6 weeks I got to go back to work.
Yeah.
So I never thought about, and regardless if my head was going in a roller coaster, that didn't matter because, I needed to do what I needed to do. So I never, when I hear that, it sounds comforting to me that something is going to take place to help this transition between the live birth and getting back to a normalcy in the woman's life or the mother's life, and I just I couldn't relate to that. I'll just be honest, I just could not relate to it.
Okay, now when I say the word postpartum, how do you guys feel?
Sad.
I think of depression immediately.
Yeah, sadness.
Yeah, it doesn't invoke good feelings. It
I mean, I
just
just heard post anxiety, and that made me nervous. I was like, "There's more of them." It's just depression. That's it.
well, and imagine I had a difficult pregnancy with the second one, so I spent a majority of my pregnancy in high anxiety mode, in fear mode that I would lose my baby. So then delivery brought some relief,
Hmm.
but then for me physically became the concern. Now what happens to me? And so I pushed through it, but when I look back on it, it was a tough time.
Hmm.
So I think, and so that's like the main goal is to let's change that wording. So everyone can understand that every birth, regardless, unfortunately, some women have miscarriages, some women have preterm babies, but every birth goes through a fourth trimester. But it's the postpartum stuff is what we're trying to prevent. That's what we're trying to prevent. We're trying to prevent the depression. We're trying to prevent the breastfeeding difficulties. We're trying to prevent all of that. But if we keep saying it's the fourth trimester, there's overall understanding, oh, this mom needs rest. It's more about the mom. It's less about the baby. And then when you say postpartum, you just see a woman just falling apart. And that's not fair. So yeah, that's why I like to do that exercise to just kind of start changing that narrative. It's like, no, every birth goes through the fourth trimester. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Wow.
and it sounds just like every trimester you should accomplish this, and this. You should be at this mile marker. I'm not saying mile marker, we're not on a highway, but we should be at this point. The fourth trimester should be something normalized where this should be a care for transitioning period as well. And I really hope that especially this episode goes far to help people bring more awareness to actually have a conversation with their doctor about the fourth trimester.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually had a dad come up to me when I was presenting the fourth trimester, and he literally said, if I understood that there was another trimester where I had to help my wife deal with this, we wouldn't be divorced right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I was floored as well.
And I can see that. I can totally see where the break would come in, because we have a very fairy tale idea of what that partner is going to be like after we have the baby. And when that does not happen, that can be a tear or a fracture in the relationship that can never truly be repaired. You might, kind of forgive for the moment, but I could see it possibly coming back depending on that mother's situation after she gave birth. That hit home.
Yeah. Ooh.
Even me personally, that I don't have kids, I'm like, when I hear people talking about having kids, I hear like 3 trimesters of like, you're getting big, your body's expanding, everything's breaking, your ribs. if I would have known it was a time where it's like, oh, but you do get that time where you get to chill. Because my mom had twins, fraternal twins, and they're turning 17 in a couple of days. And when that woman gave birth, it was expected of her to go right back. I mean, I had never even heard of postpartum when my mom had given birth. And now that I think back, I'm like, she probably never said anything, but I remember my mom losing the weight and the hair and the crying, the hair falling off and the crying. I'm like, oh, that could have been depression. And she never said anything and nobody ever approached it. So that's like, I wish somebody would have told me that, because I'm like, I probably would have been a lot more support for my mother in that time. That now I'm like, oh, I don't think that was there
And
fully.
Dr. Patel, when you are using the new terminology, or when you're trying to transition the terminology from postpartum per se to fourth trimester, I think Kimmy hit a point when she was talking about a checklist, right? So that, what is that checklist within the fourth trimester?
Yeah, that's really great. So let me take it one step back and then I'll answer that question. The actual idea of the fourth trimester is actually embedded in anthropology and evolution itself. And so this term has actually been around since 1970s. And Dr. Harvey Karp, who is a pediatrician, made it really popular in 2002 with the happy baby sleep things, if you guys have heard of that.
Yeah.
But the focus again became the newborn, not the mom. And so now we're trying to, and ACOG, which is American College of OBGYN Obstetrics, they actually in 2018 have started mentioning this word as well with the fourth trimester. So going back to what you said with the checklist, so there is a period of what you mentioned, rest. There is a period of rest. We need to recognize that. Next with the checklist is when we allow the woman to rest, then medically and culturally as a society, we're ensuring her health, right? We're going to start ensuring her health. Now, if you want to do concrete medical stuff, now that we're going to get into the data part of it and with maternal mortality, the thing is, when you look at maternal mortality data, so let's do a little history on that too, so we can get everybody caught up with what that actually means.
Okay.
And then we can really answer your question to the fullest. So maternal mortality is a rate that is given with the numerator, the top one is maternal deaths, and underneath it is live births times 100, and that's your 100,000 live births. It is a period of time that a woman dies due to pregnancy or postpartum complications. So it's a very specific time in a woman's life that happens. It happens with every pregnancy, like you're at risk for the maternal mortality with every pregnancy, but it's very specific to that period of life. In the turn of the century, the 20th century, when the industrialized nations were starting to build and starting to conquer other kind of countries or invest in other countries in whichever way, they realized that there's actually, so women's primary role from a biological perspective is to reproduce. Now, if you have a mom that passes away, you don't have labor force. It's that simple, right? Yeah, it's that. I guess just very simple. It might be a little crude, but just very simple. So then they started using maternal mortality data per country to do a barometer, to do a benchmark of how that country was doing socially and economically. So now when we talk about maternal mortality, is actually a barometer of seeing how that country is doing overall and where the problems are and how to fix it. So in the United States, we suck. It's just simple. We are one of the leading industrialized nations, but we have the highest maternal mortality rates, and which is really scary. Now, when you actually look at the data too, 22% of women are of those maternal deaths. So the absolute number is about 1,200 right now, and 22% of those deaths are occurring in the pregnancy, so first, second, and third trimester. And this is the scary part. The rest of them are occurring after you give birth. And 17% of those deaths are occurring the day of birth. but 50-ish, 52% of them, so a good majority are occurring in the first 42 days. And that first 42 days is the numbers that they use to compare with other countries too. Now, if you think about the first 42 days, that's 6 weeks. A woman doesn't get her appointment until that's 6 weeks.
Right.
You know, and so we are not having those checkpoints. So now when we think about pregnancy, those 10 to 15 appointments, well, you get an ultrasound, you get blood work done, you get to be with your OB checking up with making sure that your health, you get tested for gestational diabetes. You have built-in check marks to make sure that that pregnancy is going well for mom and baby.
Right.
That's what we need, and that's what we're trying to advocate for in the postpartum, is to have check marks for women. So ACOG has come out and said, okay, here's the algorithm. The issue I have with it is not the algorithm. Again, it's putting onus back on that mom to get the care she needs. Instead of us stepping up and saying, no, we are going to reduce all these barriers to help promote the care that you do need. And let's recognize where you're at. So that's the issue I have with it.
Okay.
So the checkpoints are, so like for a woman, he's like, okay, what can I do today, right? First of all, don't underestimate the fourth trimester. It is life-changing in so many ways.
Right.
Forgo that $800 car seat or that, and invest in yourself and services that will help you make sure you get the rest that you need. I think, Jaslyn, you mentioned doula services. Postpartum doulas are amazing. They're helpful. Instead of on the baby shower registry, instead of another onesie that's on there, maybe as sisters and women of the womanhood, we start contributing to that kind of service instead, right? To help with that. And so now you have help for yourself when you are when you deliver. So I kind of divided up into what you can do personally and then what the medical community can do with the checkpoints. Again, services that it's temporary, but services that you might think that will make yourself easy. Now, people who are coming over to help you, we women, for some reason, we are scared of asking for help. But when we start giving the permission, it's like, oh, yes, I can help. And I always say, just thank them later on. Put a list of what you need. Do I need the dishes done? Do I need the laundry done? Do I need the dog walk? Do I need the mail put up? Okay, this is trash day. Do I need to put the trash out? So someone who comes over, because we actually want to come over. This is what I realized even with my mother-in-law, she wanted to come and help, but I was the limiting factor because I just didn't know how to ask for the help.
And pride, of course.
Okay, so put a list up there.
Yeah, and pride is a big one because we look at what our mothers did or our mother-in-laws did or the women before us and trying to compare and put ourselves to their barometer. They had to go back to work right away. We don't look at it sometimes of what they had to do versus, what should have been done. And so asking for that help is a huge part of it. Even for those that don't really quite know what they need help with, if you just start out with the chores and things that you have to normally do versus resting, that's a simple ask right there. That was good.
Yeah. We had a friend of mine was telling me that one of her friends just gave her the first day she came back, like 25 gift cards to different food places. And she was just saying that like in the middle at 2 o'clock in the morning when she was just in her most lowest, she ordered her pizza for herself and she didn't realize what that value of the $25 was, So it's like simple acts like that. It doesn't have to be a big blown act. It's just simple, tiny acts that can help. And then medically speaking, I mean, we know going back to maternal mortality, we know women of color, especially African-American mothers, are 3 times higher risk of those risk factors. They are dying more compared to other populations. And so first of all, it's really to, and unfortunately, sometimes you have to advocate for your health. If something is not going right, you know your body the best. You do. Women's intuition, it really is, it's very powerful.
Mhm.
So speak up and keep speaking up until someone finally can hear you. And it's hard. It's hard because we haven't come to that level as a medical community, and we're trying as well. Unfortunately, the whole system's a big mess, but we don't need to go into that. But first of all, just if you know something's not right about you, just say it. Okay, just be like, this is not right about you. And then the other thing is, if you actually look at the data for African American women, what they're dying of is cardiovascular risk.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I think her connection.
Yes, freezing.
Oh,
Wow,
reason that's the best part.
that was a bomb.
You have a number for her to text her?
No, I'm just gonna.
That was scary. Doesn't that could be stress? That could be a lot of scary stuff. I'm gonna call my mom and apologize after this episode. I thought all I could, but I'm sorry.
She'll come back on. Until she comes back on, when she said heart disease, I just can tell you, a lot of times it's not the simple fact of feeling like, okay, my heart is skipping beats and things like that. Heart disease can give you other signs, like people don't notice because I know I have I see a cardiologist. You can feel dizzy.
Oh, yeah.
And dizzy is a big red flag to, don't let them keep saying, okay, what is it, Chauncey, Jasmine in her ear issue?
Not vertigo.
Be your heart. Be your heart. Because if one of your valves is not like doing what it's supposed to do, that's backwashing, back blood going back, go up to the head, and you feel dizzy. You know what I mean? So a lot of people
Not
miss
the
little
same
things.
symptoms as the high blood pressure and,
Silent. That's silent. That's going to get you. I'm telling you.
it leads to a
That
stroke.
pork chop. Don't tell them. Don't be sorry when you ate that pork chop. I'm serious. Like
I know you are.
I say to him all the time, mess around and you're gonna find out because you're gonna sit there and you're gonna be like, okay, I just I feel fine while your crap is sitting up at 200 over 250. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's it's just some signs. And like I was saying, when I was pregnant with Jose, I had gestational diabetes. You know what I mean? And
That's
people
how
kept
you.
on asking me, "Oh, did you get big or something?" I was like, "Nope, I gained 12 pounds with Jose. 12.
You dropped that bomb and then you left, and we were like,
I'm sorry.
And you're
I don't know what it is.
No, this happens. This happens, because look, we're dependent on the internet. So guess what?
Yeah.
First I thought it was mine because I don't know what Comcast been doing over here. Sorry, Comcast, but I've been having
No,
problems.
it's probably me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wait, I just got off. So, okay. So hopefully that doesn't happen again.
It's all right.
It's fine.
So, yeah. So, okay. So I will repeat that. So one of the risk factors for African American mothers dying is cardiovascular risk. So blood pressure machine. I mean, it's a simple buy, get it from there. And if you can monitor it yourself, and if there's any issues with it, just inform your OBGYN provider and say, hey, I've been kind of monitoring my blood pressure and I'm kind of concerned with it. And then they can help walk you through it. So those are kind of couple of simple steps to start off with.
Do you think, Dr. Patel, and I've often wondered this working in the industry, the turnaround time on delivery and sending a mother home? It used to be, back in the day, women were in the hospital 5 to 7 days after giving birth. And so that's the kind of care that they received for them and the baby. And then they were sent home. And then we got to a time period where it was 2 days. You had that baby on Friday, Sunday, they were sending you home. And there was a short period, I remember when I first entered the industry about 30 years ago, it was a day. If there were no
for my children.
yeah, there were no complications, and depending on where you lived, They turn around and they send you home within the day, within 24 hours. They went back to the 48. But when I think about that, you go from 5 to 7 to 2 to 1 back to 2. Unless, of course, you have a C-section where it will give you a few more days. But do you think that that could also help with some of what's happening with the fourth trimester?
Oh, of course, but we've gone too far with the insurance and legislation to get back to that. So the change was that in the 1990s, the legislation, what happened was all these insurance companies initially were nonprofits, and legislation got passed that they could actually become for profit. So with that change in mindset, that's when you saw those one-day deliveries. And it was actually what was happening also on the medical side of it, that kids were coming back in for jaundice reasons, breastfeeding reasons, and maternal issues as well. And so they actually had to pass a law, a national law, that mandated insurance companies to have 2 days after vaginal delivery and 3 days after C-section. From the insurance company's standpoint, when you look at what's expensive is hospital care, right? And so hospital care, one of the big chunks is women having babies. That's where hospital care is. And so those were the stuff that had happened and where you saw that up and down. Like I said, unfortunately, we're in this insurance world that you'd have to pass a law again to be like, this is mandated for you.
For sure.
And so that was the reason that you saw it. But I mean, definitely the 5 to 7 days and was just care for the mother. And it was ensuring better breastfeeding. It was ensuring just her health and capturing any issues that would happen with her. Within the closer you are to birth, hemorrhaging is the #1 reason that women are dying also. So if you are actually leaving within 24 hours after birth, you might not be getting the right education to check on yourself for that.
Not even know the symptoms or what to look out for, and then even if you're told what to look out for, you're concentrating on a newborn and trying to tend to them, and you're going to forget about yourself because now your concentration is on this little person who just arrived. I could totally understand.
So let me ask a question, Dr. Patel. What can we do to bring more awareness? What do you envision happening to bring more awareness? Now, I know you have a great book out, which
Yes.
I'm an avid reader. All of us are sitting here. But this is like a step right here, of course, a podcast. But we want to go a little bit further. Like, what else can we do? It may be something localized. What can we do to bring more awareness that you envision? Because you spoke about laws. That laws need to be changed. You know what I mean? But I think that, as you said, we're our biggest advocate for ourselves. You know what I mean? How do we get this awareness out? Because I know that I want to dedicate this platform to bring more awareness. And it could be just little things. We can do a fundraiser or something like that, something that helps, you know what I mean, bring awareness. So I just wanted to just put that out there. Do you have anything that you think that we could just start to? Because I think that the way a movement happens is when we do subtle changes that we commit to. You see what I'm saying? And by that, this is one step. But after you're off this episode, what can we, as women of Let's Chit Chat Sis, do to keep this momentum going?
Yeah. No, first of all, you've already nailed it. The awareness and education. And really, but actually sitting with both of you who are grandmothers, I mean, that's really powerful because you're coming to this space not saying that, oh, but we did it this way. Because I have a couple of grandmas that do that. It's like, oh, we did it this way. But then when I come to the homes, because I do home health visits, they are recognizing it's like, I wish I had this, right? And I think just even you guys being grandmas, even if it's your daughter or your daughter-in-law, to recognizing that, oh my goodness, this is what we went through. I don't want anyone to ever go through this. Let's kind of change that system. So it kind of individually starts with you, and then also individually starts with the generations that's above us to help, like Jaslyn, the generations that's below us, to be like, okay, we are trying to create pathways that you get comfortable with birth, right? You get comfortable with your health and how you advocate it. Now for kind of fundraisers, I mean, Mother's Day is an amazing time to kind of do something with the awareness of it. And if you do have a pregnant woman at that time, to have, like, for example, small baby showers that are more geared for service, not the materialistic kind of stuff. If the woman's having a second or third baby, give her a baby shower where we did this for one of our friends. We actually went to Costco, we got tons of food, and we just meal prepped for her. And what we did was so as her friends, we came and we meal prepped for her, and we actually each got we got 4 Ziploc bags for ourselves to go home. So that was really beautiful to do because she didn't need the items, right? She didn't need another carrier or another thing. She needed help in the 4th trimester. And so we kind of changed the baby shower rules for, it's like, we don't care it's your second or your third, but let's kind of do something to support it. Now for the fundraising part of it, just to do something more on that type of level, I am the co-executive director, so Michelle Haggerty and myself, we have launched a national nonprofit that's physician-led. Michelle Haggerty is a family medicine physician in Minnesota. There's about 15 physicians that are doing the physical work that we are. There are literally 100 more physicians learning what 4th trimester care is and incorporating that into their own practices as we speak. And we opened 2 years ago. We had an amazing conference in November, but it's for us is also to teach the medical community what this is. And our fundraiser, so it's a nonprofit, so if you'd like to donate to that, to create more of the medical systems, that we need to actually change it. So that's what the piece is missing. There are medical systems there. For example, there are federally funded programs that do some home visits. However, there's always requirements for it. You have to be like a first-time young mother, and that's like your nurse partnership visits, or you have to be very low-income African American mother. You have to be an Indigenous mother, but we are just spotting it, right? We're not creating.
Again. Lost her again. I'm wondering if I know, and it's so hard on the podcast. Sometimes it's the video that causes it causes the delay and everything. It happens to me on my Teams calls at work.
I know, but they funny though, because when you see them, you be like, here she goes. You see,
I'm so sorry. I am not sure what's going on with so we'll do it this way.
That's why I just shared with them. Sometimes it's the video.
Yes, I'm just like, this is ridiculous. So I'm trying to connect again. So I'm just going to say no.
well,
So,
what I'd like to see is, I mean, when you get time, Dr. Patel, if you can send actually a link to
I was going to ask you to plug
the organizations.
They do have a lot of readers. I'm like, after we get out of here, I was going to go look for it because I'm like, girl, my book, I'm learning so much stuff that I'm like, even though I don't want it, my sister-in-law just had a baby, and a lot of the stuff that you guys are saying, I'm like, this woman won't ask for help. Like, I'll do as much as I can, but that list stuff, like asking her to just make a list, that's a very non-confrontational way of just make a list, and I just come in, and when I'll do what I have to do, and then I'll leave.
Well, what I love is, Dr. Patel, your website has a quiz. How ready are you to bring baby home? That I think kind of covers a multitude of areas. And so, I'm excited about reading more.
I am too.
And learning more about your organization and your nonprofit and the programs that you're working with. Where are you based out? Where's Naya Care based out of?
We're here in Denver, Colorado. And and so in May, when our directory goes up through the nonprofit, there are going to be on there, you can search for physicians in your area that are kind of doing the work. And right now it's kind of pockmarked everywhere, but hopefully within a year or two, there's just going to be a lot more physicians on there that you can choose from. Yeah.
Well, what I would like to do is, go ahead, Chauncey, sorry.
No, I was just saying it was amazing. And I know that we have a lot of entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs that listen to our podcast and participate with us. And the question that I would have would be, sometimes those entrepreneurs are looking to invest in programs and participate. What kind of background, other than being maybe an RN or an MD, would they need to have to maybe get within your network or your directory to expand it to other parts of the country?
Oh, definitely. So it's though it's physician led, we collaborate with everyone who's interested in this space. So our members are range from doulas to mothers. So you can be a member of this program
Awesome.
or to our thing. So it's open for membership. It's not that expensive in terms of membership. It's $100 for a year, and then you get the benefits of what all comes with the membership as well. So it's just that it's a physician-led organization, but our members consist of everyone. And the reason we wanted to create it was we wanted to bring everyone that was in this space under one umbrella. So we have, our board consists of OBGYNs, pediatricians like myself, family practice docs. We even have a PMR doctor, a pain doctor. And I think Kim, you had mentioned earlier about that birth trauma that occurs, and it's under-recognized. And so when we wanted to create this, it's like, nope, let's just make it 360 and we're going to go through it. Lactation, doula, chiropractors, acupuncturists, anyone who works in this space and wants to change it and figure out how to change it. We just have to come together to figure it out as a society, how to do it.
I've talked to, and I've had family members who are part of like a social work, neonatal social work organizations as well. So I'm sure that would kind of fall under that umbrella as well. So that would be wonderful.
Yeah, definitely.
And what I would like to do is, in a couple months, you come back, and
Yeah.
and I say this because we should always be able to track progress. You know what I mean? What we have, learned here. It might be our next season, the beginning of our next season, where we've tracked what we have done on this end, to be able to give some insight, as well as you give us some insight of what progress, because we're not going to settle for anything but progress in this space. So I think this was an awesome educational, enlightening and empowering episode. And I say educational because you did give us the fundamentals, you gave us the analysis, you also gave us the percentages and the data to go by to be able to do better.
You almost got me. If you would have got me just a few more years, I would have had a baby in there. But I was like, oh, if I would have known it was like this, I would have definitely jumped on that. It's too late now, but that would have been, even now, what I was telling her to plug the book and all that stuff is because we don't know who's pregnant, who's planning, who's in the middle about to give birth. I was thinking about I have a family member that's a doula. We might do that next season because, we wanted to be, I'm so tired of people when you say doula and you see an African-American talk about them having a doula, people are like, and I'm like, this isn't something that should be so shocking. Like, we should all be able to think of like, hey, I'm having a baby. Let me go get a doula. Let me go find this out. So I plug that book up, girl, because I want to get that today.
So anybody have any final questions or anything you'd like to say?
No, thank you for your statistics, Dr. Patel. I mean, they were heart-wrenching, hard to hear, but also not surprising. But thank you, because it brings it to the forefront. Because again, if we don't talk about it, there's no way to address it. And so it will be in the forefront. Like you said, I'm a mother and I am a grandmother of girls. You know what I mean? And they are preteens. And so you blink and 10 years have gone by, at least in my world. So I would definitely love to be armed and ready and have the information and know that it's available to them, and just share it with everyone that we know. And again, we have friends and family that are in the industry. So the medical, the insurance, all of that. I know doulas as well. So thank you so much for sharing this and coming on. And I can't wait to have you back.
Oh, thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank
I mean, thank you honestly to give the platform. I was telling Jaslyn earlier, it was so disheartening when these numbers get released and there's like a blip in the media and then it goes away and then you're just sitting there and you're just like, oh my God. So when I did the TEDx talk in September, the number was like 23.8 was the rate. And in March 2003, so just about roughly 9 months, it's close to 32. It just keeps rising. And it's always like just a little blip on the news media, which really frustrates me.
Yeah, it's like 2 seconds they make it. And your website is nayacare.org, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's NAYACARE.org.
Yes, yes. And the book is The Doctor in Her Black Bag, since I do take the old-fashioned medical bag home. You can find everything through the website, and then the nonprofit is c4tc.co. Everyone is welcome to become a member on there. We really need everyone's help and support and manpower, woman power to really move and shift this conversation and create that movement of caring for mothers in a better way. So
thank you.
We will definitely get our support. And like I said, we will be able to show what we have done, even in this localized area, because we live near a major metropolitan city, and Chauncey is actually in it. And the rate there for this issue is great. It's great. And maybe because we look at things in an aspect of, well, maybe that's just a problem of the impoverished person. No, it's not. I mean, I think it's great. Don't get me wrong, because it is a big issue there, but it's an issue overall. And I think that you brought so much awareness to it. We would not be right if we did not grab the torch and run with this. Because like we said, we all have somebody, you know what I mean? And our kids are going to have somebody. And this pattern is just what you said. It's getting higher, and that's an issue. So we have all your information. We will definitely post that with this episode. I thank you again, and we will definitely.
Can I end on one note? Hold on. So I wanted to end on what you just said, Kimmy. So I intentionally do not present women who are lower socioeconomic issues because everybody thinks that.
Yeah.
But please check out Serena Williams' story. It's been on Vogue. It's on CNN. Dr. Chancey Wallace is someone that I highlight in The Doctor in Her Black Bag, African-American pediatrician who lost her life 2 days after giving birth from preeclampsia. And so my intentions always is to present higher socioeconomic women to do the point that you were. And I know we can talk more, but I think that point is, you just nailed that so well.
It's very important to know. And I think Judge Lynn Toller, she lost a daughter-in-law shortly after delivery as well. So she and her son are in the fight as well. So yes, it's just not, low income people. This is happening to all of us, and we have to fight back.
So when you end up, and I'm gonna end this lightly. So when you end up on the Tam show, or you end up on Kelly and her husband now, make sure you tell us, because we're going to come with you. Okay.
Okay. I would love that.
I have the TED Talk app. So I'm
sign my book. I'm like, sign my book, and then we can go and do our little thing.
Because we're going to be rah-rahing over here. So we're going to go with you. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
You guys,
Thank you, everybody. And this was a great episode. Make sure you check us out every Wednesday when we have a new episode. I'm really delighted with all my co-hosts today. We did a phenomenal job. So everyone have a wonderful week on purpose, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Take care.